This is Saturday Java with Jason. I am Jason Coffee Man. This is where great coffee meets great conversations and great guests. I am here with Angela Duncan, who is a real estate, I guess you would say, expert in buying and selling and all that. And so I'm going to give the time over to Angela so she can really give you an introduction of who she is, what she does, and all that.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me on. I really appreciate it, Jason. How far do you want me to go back?
Well, why don't you tell them about what you do now and what got you into real estate and all that?
Yeah, so now I help create tax burdens for my clients. What that means is we are busy in our lives, and I understand that. So, as a financial consultant, I want to help my clients figure out how to create passive income. And where that came from is I am a survivor of childhood poverty. What that means is I grew up in Section 8 housing and welfare, and I remember what it feels like to be in poverty as a kid. And so if I can help any family kind of break that cycle and teach them that there is a better way, then that's my mission and my passion.
Oh yeah, the government cheese and the ramen noodle, Chef Boyardee and spam, all that good stuff. Oh
Yes,
yeah,
I remember having like Taco Bell and Arby's for lunch because I was on the free lunch program, and it was just awful food.
back some memories. But yeah, so let's not go down that path again. So I talked to you off the air a little while ago about real estate. And one of the things that really gets me is you see a lot of things on right now about on the home and garden TV and all this about buying, selling, flipping, all that. And that's one of the things I want to talk to you about right now is the fact of for passive income is sitting at home and collecting the rent from real estate. And one of the things that people don't realize that you can actually go buy houses from like tax liens and stuff like that, foreclosures at cheap prices. But a lot of those houses need a lot of work to get them up to code and get them to pass for even a rental property.
Yes. And so I didn't initially start off in the tax lien field. I thought that if we bought single family houses, found tenants for them, rented them out, that somehow that could be a good passive income strategy while I worked a full-time job. And that is definitely not a great strategy. Getting calls on Thanksgiving because the toilet is broken is not a passive income strategy. So I just kept being a student and learning more about real estate. And I happened to pick up a book. I believe it was called The 16% Solution, and it was about tax liens. And so that's how I kind of got curious about what a tax lien was, how it truly can be passive income, and then just really became a student and started learning more about tax lien investing.
Okay. And can you tell them what exactly, because you're using words a lot of people might not know. I do know, but my listeners might not. Can you tell them what a tax lien actually is and how that can be beneficial to the person that wants to be an investor?
Yes. So it depends on your states. I'm in Florida. A tax lien is when a homeowner does not pay their property taxes. And so that money goes to the government. The government needs that money, to pay for schools and police officers and firefighters. And so they put a lien on your property, and then they take that lien and they sell it to investors like myself. And so they get their money, but they also tell me how much interest they're going to pay me up front. Florida will pay up to 18% interest on that tax lien. So I'm essentially helping the government fund their budget. And in return, they're borrowing money from me to pay that tax lien, but they're giving me an interest rate for that money.
Okay. And how can that be better than going to an auction, say, and buying one at an auction? Or is auctions better than a tax lien?
So they're two different things, and it depends on your state. In Florida, we have tax liens. Some other states, like Arkansas, for example, they sell, like you were saying on the auction steps, they'll sell the tax deed. So the actual property deed, they're going to auction off to you. So it depends on what state you live in. About half of them participate in the lien and the other half participate in the deed. And so you've got to understand what the rules are where you live. And I highly recommend you start where you live, because then you can drive by, you can see the property, you can make sure there's actually a house there and you're not just, investing in dirt, because you can't really rent dirt. So understanding what the rules are where you live, but also making sure that you're driving by to go check out that property too.
And I heard of different places well, I should say different crimes of people actually trying to sell houses that are not their house. They'll go on Craigslist, find a vacant house that is not theirs, and put their name on the false deed. So you should also do a check and make sure that that deed that you're trying to buy is a legitimate deed.
Yes, there's a lot of fraud that still goes on in the real estate world. So having a good attorney to do that title research for you is a very important process in the tax lien investing.
It might cause you a little bit more headaches, but it might be worth it in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Because if you buy something, obviously, that's not available for you to purchase, then you could be out some money. And you also want to know if there's any other problems that are going to be, like you were talking, there could be code issues, or you want to know if there's any other liens on the property, because this tax lien is first in line, but you do have to go through a process. If you're going to either foreclose and take the home, you have to go through a process to make sure that you clear out everything and then take over that property.
Now, another thing that really concerns me, and I'm not sure if it concerns other guests, but you could have a family living there right now that takes a bedroom and makes it into a bathroom, or they take an attic and they furnish it and they turn it into another room. Now, that might not be listed on the deed. It could say a 2-bedroom, but when you go in to check it out, it's a 3-bedroom, or it could be a 1-bath and it's a 2-bath. Or another thing is septic, and that septic might be only for 1 bath, but they changed it to a 2-bath. Now that septic might not hold a 2-bath, so that might have to be redone. All these things might and should be concerns, Angela.
Yeah, absolutely. So you kind of want to have your team together, right? So you might need to have a contractor that's going to go look at the property after you have it. You might have an attorney that helps you with clearing the title or the deed of the property. But you also want to have a good group, like an email database of investors, because ideally, if we're going to foreclose on the property, the easiest and quickest thing is to turn it over to another investor and let them do the work. Now, you might be able to make more profit if you did the work yourself and then sold it, but it can be a headache. So you have to decide, what kind of investor are you? And if you're going to go through and do the process, then maybe you should have a database of investors that you can then turn around and sell that property to, and they can deal with all those headaches. And then you still have a profit margin from the work that you did.
So in other words, you're talking about buying the place for like $10,000 for the tax lien, and turn it around and sell it to another investor for 4 times, 5 times that money.
Yeah,
So
whatever the
you make a
market will
quick.
pay. Yeah,
So in other
absolutely.
words, you're just buying it and then flipping it over to that other investor right away.
Yes, for us, we want to turn that as quickly as possible so we can go out and buy another tax lien or another tax deed. So the faster I can get that property off of my books, the better for us, because then we can just go rinse and repeat, go do it again. We're not going to be the ones, our fund, we don't go and necessarily fix up the properties. We're going to buy them as is and then turn around to an investor. And then that way we can go again and go find more properties.
So is it better to somewhat then try to flip it, like try to clean it up, mow the lawn, get new appliances in there, or do you just care about mainly the shell, mainly the house itself, or do you kind of like to do a little bit of work, fix it up for like a month, and then flip it?
Yeah, it depends on what type of investor you are. Us, we prefer not to have to do any of the repairs. We're just going to flip it to an investor that then they can go take care of the repairs and sell it to someone that might be able to live in the property. We're looking more for the investors to sell the property to.
So now, can anybody really get into this where you just need a couple $1,000s? Or sometimes are there angel investors that say, hey, look, I'll give you this kind of money? I mean, how do people get involved with their first buy?
Yeah, so figure out what the rules are where you live. I'm in Florida and most of our auctions are online. And so you can go to the county website and you can figure out when their online auction is going to be. You sign up as a bidder, but understand that if you win your bid, you're going to have to submit that money right away. So it needs to be money that you have liquid in your bank account. But yeah, I've seen tax liens as low as $500. And then I've seen them as high as 20, 30, 40,000, depending if it's a residential property or if it's a commercial property, then those tax liens might be higher for you to purchase. But if it's your first time, I would definitely start smaller. And as an angel investor, I wouldn't necessarily give money to a brand new person. So, build up that portfolio, do it a couple times, get to know your area and how the process should work. Then perhaps you can go out and raise some capital from investors to help you do more of the tax lien investing. And then you can share the profits because you're using somebody else's money.
And a lot of things I hear online is about passive. You can make money doing like affiliate marketing, a lot of those things. A lot of those are good, but a lot of them take so much time where I feel if you have, say, $3,000, I feel it might be a faster thing instead of just affiliate to actually go out there, try to get an auction, get that first bid of 3,000 in there. You have it, bid it. You never know what's going to happen. Turn around, like you said, sell it to an investor. Even if you make 2, 3, 4,000, well, you made your money back plus 4,000. How long would that take to make with affiliate marketing from like Amazon, stuff like that?
Yeah, whereas tax liens, I can look online, see what's available for sale, right? For me to bid on. Maybe pick 10 properties and go drive by them on a Saturday, pick the ones I want to bid on. And so we talked about like the worst case, right? Having a property, now it needs repairs, but it is possible that that property owner eventually pays their taxes back. And so me as an investor, I get the money I bought the tax lien for, plus the interest accrued. And all I really did was drive by some properties, do some research, and then sit and wait to see what happens with the homeowner.
Has there been any properties that you bought and got stuck with?
There have been some where, it wasn't in the ideal situation because like you said, you have no idea what's going on inside that house and you don't have access to it. So I don't own the property and I can't have access until I own it. But, it's just a matter of having a good team in place that's going to be able to figure out how to secure the property, make sure the doors are locked, the windows are not broken or they're all locked. And then we can hurry up and sell it to the investor so they can come in and do all the work.
Yeah, because I get a feeling if I do this, my first one, I'm going to buy it. It's going to look really good on the outside, but then it's be like that movie called The Money Pit, where every time you turn around, something is going bad. Like either the roof leaks, then you fix that, the floor caves in, something. I got a feeling that's what's going to happen when I get my first one.
Yeah. So, that's part of what we do for our clients. If clients aren't interested in going and doing the tax lien on their own, our company does that for them. And then they just lend their money to us. We tell them how much we're going to pay them, which is 22% a year. And we do all the work. So it really becomes a truly passive investment for them because they don't have to do any of the work. We're doing all of that process.
Now, people could say, yeah, but you're talking 5, 6,000, even 10,000. People are going to say that's, you're telling me something that's too good to be true. There's no way I can get a house for $10,000 and this and that. Can you explain to them exactly what we're talking about? How this is not too good to be true?
Yeah. So say for example, there's a property. It's a, smaller home, maybe it's a 2 bedroom, 1 bath, at least on public records, that's what it shows. And the taxes that are owed is $5,000. So I bid, I give the county my $5,000, and the property owner decides that they don't want the property and we have to go through the foreclosure process. I take that property, which I paid $5,000 for that tax lien. Now I'll have some attorney costs. I might have some inspection costs after I take the property. And then I'm going to send that property out via email to our investor list, and someone else is going to come in and buy it from me. So all I really had to do was my time, some money up front, and then making sure that all of the process through an attorney is done correctly so that I can have a clear title and sell it to somebody else.
Now, when you say sell it to somebody else, you don't have to just do an investor. You can actually put that online and sell it to a sole buyer who, they don't need to be an investor. They could just be somebody who wants to buy a house.
Yeah, absolutely. You could get with a realtor and you could put it up for sale like a normal house would be sold. It just depends on, what your own investment plan is going to be. And it's really good for you to have that process in place before you start buying tax liens.
Has there been a point where you're like, oh, I'm going to sell this, when you realize how much money that could actually make for revenue renting it out? And where you said, the heck with it, I'm not going to sell this. I'm going to keep myself rented out and get that income.
I have thought about it, yeah, but it's not the strategy that we choose to employ. So we stick to our strategy so that when our investors are coming to us, we can tell them exactly what we're doing. We follow exactly what we're going to tell them because I want to be honest and transparent. So we have our own strategy and we follow that strategy. Could we have been, rented a house? Sure. But then we become property managers and that's not passive for us. So I really don't want to be in the property management business. Our plan is to find them. If we need to foreclose, turn around and sell them so that we can turn a quick profit and then move on to the next property.
Now, in Florida, because we're talking about Florida, we're not talking about any other state right now, because Angela cannot give advice for Texas, California. But in Florida, what's the average time from you actually buying that place to actually you having ownership of that place?
Yes. So we try 2 avenues. One, we could go door knock and say, excuse me, Mr. Homeowner, you haven't paid your taxes. And if it is a hardship for them, meaning like they lost their job, maybe someone passed away and they don't have enough income, or they got sick and they have to move. Well, instead of them losing the whole house, maybe we're going to give them some money and help them move out and go to their next property. That we can do relatively quickly and maybe say, 6 months time. If they don't wish to pay their taxes and we have to foreclose, that could take 2 years in Florida. That's the law in Florida. Each state has a different time period, but we're, talking specifically about Florida. So it could be 2 years before I really see that money back from an investor or back on our tax liens. And so that's just part of our strategy. And we understand that. And that's why, we're more about flipping the property versus keeping it or fixing it or renting out, because we do have that time period that we might have to wait 2 years.
Now that's 2 years that $5,000, $10,000 is tied up. So you got to make sure.
It's accruing interest too. So even if I foreclose, the county has to pay the money back with the interest that's due.
Right. So that money is still tied up though. So you want to make sure that that's $10,000 that you have that you can afford to be without.
Yes, absolutely.
So these things are things you got to keep in mind, because we're talking about things like $10,000. Do you have that kind of money tied up that you can afford to go without? But you can also make that money 18% interest. So all those things, I mean, that's still better than what I think affiliate marketing has for returns.
Yeah, unless you become a student of affiliate marketing, you understand it and really stick to it. I'm sure it can make some money for people, but I've been studying and I've been in the real estate field for over 20 years. So I understand real estate. I'm going to stick in my lane.
And that's the thing. Find what you're good at and stick to it. And that goes for anything in life, whether you're a musician or anything like that. Find something and stick with it because Angela's been doing this for 20 years. Look what she knows. She's stuck with it. And
Mhm.
that's what you got to do with life. Stick with something that you know and don't change your niche.
Yeah, become a student and stay a student. I'm never going to stop learning about real estate because it's the best thing that I can do to serve my clients.
Now you've been there for 20 years. Are you still learning as you go? Or would you say that you became, I don't want to say stagnant, but well, you're not learning anymore? Or do you learn something new every day?
Oh no, I'm still learning because states and counties can change their rules. They can change the interest rate. They can change the time period. As the laws change, I need to stay up to date on that so that I can be, the best advisor for my clients. But the rules are always changing. So you have to be a lifelong student in any field that you're going to invest in. Even when I think I may know a lot, or if I think of me as an expert, I'm not. And I take that approach that I'm always going to be a student for as long as that I'm in business and helping clients.
That's awesome because you know what people say, oh, you learn something new every day, and that proves it. I mean, I'm learning something new talking to you about real estate because I read Trump's books, Win the Deal and stuff like that. I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, all those things. But when you talk to somebody, you actually learn one on one of how to do it. And the person actually answers your questions. So I do want to say I'm actually learning a lot on this podcast myself. So thank you, Angela.
It's good.
Now, one thing I wanted to really get into with you now is the buying and the flipping. People, because of HGTV and all that, a lot of those shows are flipping houses. What is the pro and the con of flipping, if I could ask you that?
Yeah. So I believe when you're flipping houses, you make your money on the buy. So the first thing you have to do is make sure that purchase price is the best deal that you can possibly find. Because as we kind of talked about already with the tax liens, once you buy the home and you start doing renovations, you may have done an inspection, but things are going to pop up that the inspector didn't catch. They can't see under the floors and the walls. They don't know maybe necessarily if you didn't do the right plumbing inspection, you don't know what the pipes look like all the way out to the street. So ensuring that you're really padding that renovation budget is really important, and understanding like who's your end client going to be. Is it going to be someone that lives in the property? Is this going to be like a rental property? And understanding what that strategy is going to look like is very important for you as well.
Would you say that find find like a neighborhood that is higher end for your first one? Or would you say for your first flip, find something like a Section 8 neighborhood where it's kind of the lower end? What would you kind of stick with if you were
I
going to
would
do that?
I would look for neighborhoods that have a lot of activity, meaning a lot of homes are being bought and sold, because then buyers want that neighborhood. Section 8 is a very specific investment vehicle. So if you have studied and understand how that works, it could be a great investment because, well, the government's paying you money every month. You don't necessarily have to worry about the rent coming late, but it's a different clientele. So you have to be able to understand how that works before you get into that very specific niche type of real estate. I don't necessarily recommend high-end flipping for people who haven't been in the business for a while, because again, they're looking for very specific things when they're buying a luxury property, and you have to understand what that end client looks like. So when you're getting into flipping, knowing what your client that's going to buy the property is very important so that you can understand what is it that's going to be important to them, and making sure you do that when you're renovating the house so that that buyer is going to be happy. A luxury buyer is going to look for something completely different than perhaps a middle income or Section 8 buyer, right? So you want to just understand who your market is when you're going through that purchasing price, because the purchase is really important.
And the thing is a different taste too. Like I can't flip a house that I like and then going to sell it to Angela because what I like could be different than what she likes.
Mhm.
So same thing with you guys and my listeners. You guys can't flip a house and put what you like in there. It's got to be kind of neutral because I'm not going to like what you like. Angela's not going to like what you like. So it's got to be done to them, not to your liking.
Yeah, stay away from trends. I mean, I love pink, but I wouldn't put pink in a renovation flip house because I'm gonna eliminate more than half the market. So yeah, that's very true. Keep it neutral. Stay away from the trendy stuff. It's just easier to find a buyer when it's neutral.
So no neon colors is what you're saying, Angela.
Unless you're in Key West, yeah, no neon colors.
Well, Angela, I'm going to give you a moment to talk about what is important to you. I'm going to give you a chance to ramble on because I know that you have your own business and empowering women. So I'm going to give you a moment to talk about that. But I know that is really what you do and where your heart is.
Yeah, so I mean, I do refer to myself as a teacher first. It's very important for me to teach other people about money. I think having poverty in this country is one of the things that we could absolutely solve, but it's going to take education and it's going to take action. And so it's going to have to fall upon us as individuals because the school systems are not going to teach you this. You have to find mentors. And there's so much free information. There's podcasts, there's YouTube. Like pick something to learn about and break that poverty cycle for yourself. Be unselfish and take time and teach yourself first, then implement it. And know you're going to make mistakes. That's okay. I've lost hundreds of thousands of dollars in my years of real estate investing. Doesn't mean I quit though. It means I've learned and I continue to move forward. And I teach as many people who are willing to listen and learn from me because if I can change my cycle of poverty, they can too. And it's absolutely something that our country should be focused on. And this is something that we can change in this country.
And that's what gets me is what you said is you didn't quit. I look at a quote that means a lot to me. It's quit when you are done, not when you are tired.
Hmm. Yes. And to me, done means I am no longer here breathing. It means that I have gone up to my maker and I am spending time with God. That's when I'm done.
I mean, have you ever got to the point, Angela, where you just feel so burnt out where, look, no matter what I do, I'm running uphill. And, what do you do for the people out there that feel like that? No matter what they do, they're running into brick walls and they feel they can't succeed. What do you tell them?
Yeah. So for me, if you're religious, the hardest times in life is usually right before my breakthrough. And that's because I feel like the enemy is keeping me from the greatness that's right in front of me. So I believe that when things are hard, it's because I have greatness right in front of me and I just have to keep going. But I will say, very good example. I owned an insurance company that I had built for a couple years and I was burnt. I was not a great leader, was not the best person to run that company. I wasn't enjoying what I was doing. So I knew that I had to let that insurance company go. Now I found a buyer, great buyer, takes care of the clients. I knew I needed to exit that. And that's a very hard thing as a leader to say that I was not doing a good job, but I knew I was burnt and I wasn't doing a good job and I had to let it go and then reflect and figure out, okay, what did I learn from this and what's next? And I took a good year off before my next business and I had to allow myself that time to grow because I knew that I needed to work on me so that I can get back to helping other people.
Now, no matter what business or what next step you go to take, you're going to have the people out there that say no, the naysayers. What do you say to the people right now who want to open a business or want to take on their next career or they want to retire? What do you say to them that hear nothing but no from the people around them?
Yeah, I have a visual. So, like, if you close your eyes and you think about an old school radio or TV, and how you're turning the volume down, right? So if I'm hearing somebody giving me negativity or something that's not supporting what I believe, I have to visually think about turning the volume down on that person and then finding my friends or my mentors or my colleagues that are cheering me on and turning their volume up. So it's kind of like an exercise, an analogy that I go through because I know that those naysayers, they don't know me. Only I know me. So for them to make any judgments on what I can and can't do is just not correct. I'm the only person that can really determine what I can and can't do. So I'm turning the volume down on that negativity and I'm seeking out help, guidance, mentors, coaches, and I'm turning their volumes up so they can be my cheerleaders and I can learn how can I accomplish my goal that's in front of me.
And what gets me is I heard a good one too that said that it's usually the naysayers out there. Those are the ones that are too scared to actually do what you're doing. A lot of them, they don't want to take that chance of failing. They don't want to take that chance of knowing they got to sacrifice tomorrow to make today happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And they're just deflecting what their fears are onto you, but you have to understand that that's not how you're feeling.
So this has been great, Angela. Any last words for the guests out there who are listening, who just want one final word from you?
Yeah, invest in yourself first, get educated, and take the time to learn so that when you make these investment decisions, you are as educated and ready as possible. You'll never be fully ready, but if you get the education first, you'll be as ready as you possibly can be. Thank you for listening to Empower Her Money podcast. I am grateful for you. Please make sure to leave us a 5-star review, like this podcast, share it, subscribe, and let's keep teaching others how to take control and be empowered with their finances.